So a personality-driven success is exactly what it sounds like. It's based on that person's personality. So that's why you see the hustle and grinders, and they're out there and they're saying, hey man, work 14, 18, 20 hours a day. And you're like, what if I don't want to do that? That's not, and not only that doesn't even mean, even if you're working all those hours, that doesn't even mean you're going to be successful anyway. You could still be doing it wrong for a lot of time, and that still doesn't work. Absolutely. So what we have that's different is system-driven success. That means because I was so aggravated by these guys, I was so annoyed, and I got ripped off so much, I said, there's got to be a systematic approach to success that they're just not telling us. And in fact, there is. And that's what I've been teaching, for a long time now, many years. And that is what enables my clients to get the 6, 7, and 8-figure increases in record time. We call it hockey stick growth because, they're going along like this, and all of a sudden, whoop, they get a hockey stick,
Welcome to Old Guy Talks to Me, a podcast dedicated to helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. Ladies, if you want to know what your guy is thinking, this podcast is for women too. Each week, a special guest helps you create that life you've imagined. We talk anti-aging medicine, personal growth, relationships and hot sex. Yeah, you hear me, getting laid more frequently. Other guy vices, and topics that many don't want to talk about but need to. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to be old. Don't want to miss anything? Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast. And be sure to go to www.thestandard.academy/magazine and grab a free copy of our new digital magazine, The Standard Academy, where we talk about erogenous zones, growing hair back, and other things that will help you create that kick-ass life. Now get ready to listen up and share with friends.
This is Oris, the official old guy at oldguytalkstome.com, a podcast where I help guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. And so a lot of times, your life has to do with performance. And I'm not talking about that kind of performance because there's a whole different connotation to performance, but it's actually getting what you want out of life. And that has to do with how you perform and how you function in the world on a daily basis, and how you, what systems you have in place and strategies you have in place to achieve the things that you want. And no matter how good our lives are, I mean, my life's pretty damn good these days. I still want more. That's just human nature. I think that's just human nature. So today I have Noah St. John with me, who is a I'm going to call you a performance coach, a performance mentor, and he helps people eliminate not enoughness from their world. And he talks a lot about, and we'll have a link to his book in the program notes. It's called Send Me a Book, Noah.com, for his free book. And the title of the book is Get Rid of Your Head Trash. And I think the conversations that we have in our head really influence the success or failures that we have. So Noah, thanks for coming on the program.
Well, it's great to be here, Oris. Thank you.
Great. So how did you get into the space? And I know that what part of it is you were in the basement for a while. And we've all been there. Sometimes you get out of the basement, and then sometimes you get back in the basement.
Yeah.
A lot of people end up back in the basement in 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
So tell us about your trip in the basement and how you got out.
Well, it started long before that. I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood, which I know is a total cliche, but it's totally true. I grew up in a little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which happens to be one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So I was, from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. And you hear these speakers, motivational speakers or gurus, and they get on stage, they say, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor. because
The only poor people that I know that are happy are ones that are drinking a lot.
Well, we didn't do that enough, I guess, because my mother reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So no, I wasn't happy. It sucked.
Yeah.
And so I hated that life of poverty. And I was like, I've got to do anything I can to get from here to there, meaning right down the street, I saw great wealth and abundance, but how the heck do I get from here to there? And so I went to the library and I started reading all these books on self-help and personal growth, all the classics, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, all the classics. And I really tried to put them to work, but I couldn't get them to work, no matter how hard I tried. So at the age of 25, I decided to commit suicide because I was so depressed, so frustrated. And, at the very last moment, my life was spared. And the only problem was I didn't know why. I still didn't know why I was here on the earth. And so I went on another long journey to find my purpose here on the earth. And in 1997, I had two epiphanies that really gave me my purpose. And so for the last 25 years, I've been teaching people, my methods and strategies of how to, live a great life. The only problem was, I started in 1997 in basement number 1 with $800 to my name in a book on HTML. And all I had no marketing experience, no sales, no business acumen. I had no money, no connections. And of course, this was years before social media and YouTube and Facebook, all the things we have today. And so all I had was really a dream and a vision of a desire to help people, to make a difference all around the world, to have an impact. But I didn't know anything about business. And so I ended up, as money would come in, I would just invest it back in the business. The problem was I paid a lot of these gurus, all these guys who are great at sales, great at marketing, great at persuasion, but who can't teach their way out of a paper bag and who suck at coaching. And unfortunately, they took a lot of my money and gave me a lot of bad advice. And so 10 years later, I ended up $40,000 in debt. I had to go back and live with my parents and work out of their basement. So I went from basement number 1 in 1997 to basement number 2 in 2007 because of getting a lot of bad advice. And so it was only after realizing that I was doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And then that's when I hired my first real business coach, not one of these gurus, but a real business coach who really helped me. And then that's when everything turned around. And, over the last 20 plus years, we've been able to help our clients, add 6 and 7 and even 8 figures to their business in record time and get their lives back. It's really been amazing.
So Noah, I want to go back to something you said early on here. You were thinking suicide. Okay. Can you take us back to that time and what do you feel, or what did you feel that made you stop? Because suicide's a dark place. It's actually on the increase, significant increase among males. It's a huge problem. And so tell us a little bit about what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Were you going to commit? Were you going to use a gun? Were you going to take pills? And what was take us back a little bit into a little more detail into that moment?
Yeah, well, this was in 1992, so it was before the internet, and so I really didn't. There wasn't much information available out there. But I had either seen a TV show or read somewhere that if you pull your car into the garage and close the door and keep the car running, you would asphyxiate yourself, and that's how you would die. And I didn't have a gun, thank goodness. But I thought that would be an easy way to go because you basically just fall asleep and don't wake up. So I was like, okay. But there was just one problem. I was living in an apartment building in North Hollywood, California, and we didn't have a garage. It was just open auto base. So I didn't have a garage. And so I was like, okay. And so I was like, you know what? I'm so done with this life that I'm just going to find a garage, pull my car in, and I'm going to end my life. And so I literally got in my car. I started driving around looking for an open garage. Now you'd think that would be crazy, right? But believe it or not, I found a garage that was just sitting there open, and I could have just pulled my car in and ended my life. And I was just about to do that. I was literally saying, okay, well, here we are. And then all of a sudden I saw the thing that actually saved my life, which was in the corner of the garage. I saw a child's bicycle. And I realized I just had a flash in my mind that it was a vision of a family, coming home. And, they, of course, didn't know what was going on. And they found my dead body in their garage. And there's a kid there, or maybe more than one kid. And I was like, just that vision. And I saw, they were crying. They were, in anguish and pain because of this stranger who just killed themselves in their garage. Imagine coming home to that. So when I had that vision, I literally said, I cannot do this. I can't do this. That's not fair to these people. They didn't do anything to deserve this. So that's when I turned my car around and went home. And then I said, okay, I guess I'm here. So now what do I do? And then that's what led to the work that I do now.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. It's to a certain extent, I do believe in divine intervention, and there's a certain amount of God's hand in that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Or not a certain amount. There's a lot of God's hand in that.
Yes.
So let's talk about the gurus, where you spent, you got into debt about $40,000 and ended up living back with your parents, which I'm sure was not fun at that, especially at that age.
No, it was not.
Yeah. I think the statistic is that about 3% of people are successful in any kind of business, that they do online. And small businesses, even brick and mortar, are not that successful on a long-term basis. So, it's really hard. I think it's really hard. And I have a friend, I should say friend, an acquaintance, and he has a statement. He says, the problem with marketers is that they're marketers. They're so effective and they're so persuasive, but it's like there's a difference between being a coach and doing the work. And it's like some of the best players and athletes, let's say in the NBA. Look at Michael Jordan. He was, I think he was the greatest basketball player of all time, and still is. But he was a horrible coach. He had this what's the word? Conscious. You don't have a sense of your consciousness of your abilities. And so he was a horrible coach. He didn't last very long coaching in the NBA because that was not his gig. And so how do people, because you're here, you have a book and you're promoting it, and you're just, I'm not gonna be insulting to you, but how do people identify someone that can really help? How did you identify someone that could really that helped you and mentored you? What was the characteristics of that journey?
Yes, well, you're absolutely right. And the fact of the matter is, and this is something I've been teaching for a long time, is that there's an enormous distance and difference between someone who's good at marketing and persuasion and someone who's good at coaching. And in fact, those are two diametrically opposed skill sets. And so what you find is that the gurus out there are great at marketing themselves. They're great at persuasion, great at sales. And what they do is they say, hey, man, if you just are like me, if you just, give me money, then you can be like me. And look at my plane, look at my helicopter, and, look at all my stuff. And aren't I awesome? And, you're like, well, yeah, you're awesome. Have you helped anybody else? Have you helped anyone else other than yourself to be successful? And the answer usually is not so much, right?
And if they're laying in a bed of cash, run away.
Right,
or
exactly.
Or a picture in front of a leased Maserati.
Right, exactly. And see, that's the thing. We see all these images and they're very persuasive, right? They're very seductive, and they know that. That's why they're, good marketers. And so, but the point is that when you go to their website, and what's nice now is that you can do your research. And so the difference is, like when you go to our website, for example, when you go to noahstjohn.com or successclinic.com or any of our websites, what you'll see is literally hundreds of case studies, hundreds. And, my friends, my colleagues in the industry often tease me and say, Noah, you got enough case studies? And I'm like, look, guys, everybody is skeptical right now. Everybody's skeptical these days. Why? Because most people have been burned by these clowns just like I was. Most people have given these gurus whether it's a few thousand or tens of thousands of dollars. I ended up paying them over $500,000, over the years. And I literally just got maybe a couple of nuggets here and there because they suck at teaching and coaching. And so the point is that what you see is personality-driven success versus system-driven success. So a personality-driven success is exactly what it sounds like. It's based on that person's personality. So that's why you see the hustle and grinders, and they're out there and they're saying, hey man, work 14, 18, 20 hours a day. And you're like, what if I don't want to do that? That's not, and not only that, that doesn't even mean, even if you're working all those hours, that doesn't even mean you're going to be successful anyway. You could still be doing it wrong for a lot of time, and that still doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So what we have that's different is system-driven success. That means because I was so aggravated by these guys, I was so annoyed, and I got ripped off so much, I said, there's got to be a systematic approach to success that they're just not telling us. And in fact, there is. And that's what I've been teaching, for a long time now, many years. And that is what enables my clients to get the 6, 7, and 8-figure increases in record time. We call it hockey stick growth because, they're going along like this, and all of a sudden, whoop, they get a hockey stick, which is pretty awesome. And, that's why we have so many case studies, because people go, okay, this isn't just one guy talking, it's like hundreds. So maybe there's a system that can work for me too.
Do you need accountability? Are you looking to change the course of your life but have failed to keep on track? Too often we take in information and fail to act. Do you need an accountability program to stay the course? Then go to www.thestandard.academy and find out about my accountability program that goes with my course that helps you find out what you want, why you want it, and how to get it. The accountability program keeps you on track to get results.
Yeah. Talk about getting more results in 12 weeks than 12 months, because that's that's an interesting concept. And so tell us a little bit more about what that is about.
Absolutely. So, I'm known as the person, the guy, the coach, the mentor that helps people make more in just 12 weeks than they made in the past 12 months, while winning back 1 to 3 hours in their day and 4 to 8 weeks per year. Now, that last part of that sentence is very important. And the reason is this, because imagine if I said, hey, I'm going to teach you how to make a lot more money. And you're like, okay, great. Yeah, so all you have to do is work 10 times harder, don't take any breaks, don't see your family, and don't take any vacations, and work 14 or 18 hours a day. Sound good? And you're like, no, that kind of sucks. That doesn't sound good, right? But yet there's a lot of people teaching that very thing. They're saying, the way to success is just work like a crazy person and never take breaks and don't see your family. I'm going, are you nuts? How is that life? How is that success? So yes, we want to help people make more money, of course. But I think more importantly is getting your life back, right? Because there's so many people who are just running on a treadmill and they're not getting anywhere. And the reason for that is because we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our habits and systems. And so what makes my teaching and my coaching different is we work on two things, and these only two, and that is inner game and outer game. All right. So inner game is everything that happens between your ears that you can't see directly, but it affects everything that you do. So, as a business coach and executive coach, I'm also a keynote speaker. So I get to speak at conferences, events, seminars all around the world, whether live or virtual. And one of the things I like to do with my audience members, I'll say, what is one area of your life where your beliefs don't affect you? And people will go like this. They'll go, and I'll say, exactly. There's no place your beliefs don't affect you, right? Your beliefs affect your health, your well-being, your peace of mind, your stress level, right? It affects your wealth, your money, your finances, your income, how much you spend, how much you bring in, your relationships, right? Your personal, your intimate relationships, your friends, family, social life, right? So there's no place your beliefs don't affect you. But here's the thing, you can't see a belief. You can only see the effects of a belief. Also, in addition to that, you could be doing really well in one area of your life, but maybe you're stuck or struggling in another. For example, maybe your relationships are really good, but maybe your business is struggling. Or maybe your health is great, but maybe, you're not getting the results you want in your career or your finances or whatever it might be, you see. So it's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's a systematic approach, but it's very customized and personalized for each person that we work with. See, so that's the inner game. And then we have the outer game, right? The outer game is everything you can see directly, right? That's, for example, in your health. That's what you're eating. Are you exercising? Are you getting, the proper amount of sleep and things like that? In your relationships, everything that you need to do to keep your relationships healthy. And then in your money, right? Your finances. Are you doing the blocking and tackling that we have to do every day? Whether you own your own business or you're in a job or you want to start a side hustle or whatever it is, there's that outer game stuff that you have to do. But what's fascinating is that, I've helped my clients over the last, 20 plus years add over $2 billion, meaning adding 6, 7, and 8 figures and more. But what's fascinating about that is that 90% of that gain, that hockey stick growth I was talking about, comes from mastering your inner game. Your inner game, not your outer game. I'll give you a quick example. I was working with one client, and he is a CEO of a software company, and his company had been stuck at the same level for 4 years, right? 4 years. He was making, now the company was bringing in 4 million, right, in revenues. Now that's really good, right? Everyone's like, wow, that's great. But he had no growth for 4 years, and he'd thrown hundreds of thousands of dollars at the problem. He'd gone to all the gurus, similar to what I did, actually. Went to all the marketing guys and the gurus, and nothing. And then I worked with him for a year. In that 1 year, we took his company from being stuck at 4 million for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in sales, a 6x growth in 1 year. That's hockey stick growth. And you know what's amazing about that? 95% of that was inner game. It was in that CEO, and it was working, the fact that we worked one-on-one together, that's what enabled him to get that hockey stick growth.
Yeah, I think Jordan Peterson writes about this in his book, The 12 Rules of Life, and he talks about, treat yourself like like someone you care about, because a lot of times people have, and you hear it, a lot of people have loser victim conversations in their head, and then they enunciate it, and I'm going like, well, yeah, if that's how you think, you're never going to get there. That's the inner head game is so important. And a lot of it has to do also with the way we ask ourselves questions. If we ask ourselves questions that are not in a solution oriented mode, then like why am I always poor? Well, your brain's going to give you a whole bunch of answers. But if you ask yourself, like, how do I create the life and wealth that I want? That's a different conversation in your head. And I learned that I used to have very, very negative conversations in my head. I grew up just like you, poor, borrowing money from relatives that was never paid back, just always on the brink of not having enough to pay for the mortgage or whatever. And so I know that very well. And those kind of things, I was actually not particularly good about handling money. Until my wife came along, and she's excellent at it.
Nice.
Yeah. But so talk a little bit about, and one of the things you talk about is willpower. And I think willpower and willpower is actually kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, one of the things that I teach is that willpower is the worst way to change a habit. And there's so many, people every year that decide, this is going to be the year. This will be the year that I get in shape, or this will be the year that I start my business, or write my book, or create that online course, or whatever, start a side hustle, whatever it might be, right? But then they just can't follow through with that, or stop procrastinating, and they just can't follow through. And the reason is because willpower is a very weak muscle. Okay, it's not that it doesn't work, it just doesn't work very well. All right, so let me give you an example of what willpower is like. Imagine if you're in your kitchen right now and somebody comes in and they have a freshly baked plate of chocolate chip cookies, right? And there's it's just came out of the oven, and you see the steam rising, and you smell the chocolate chip cookies, and your mouth starts to water, and you're like, oh my God, ooh, that looks so good, and it smells great, and you're like, oh man, and then they say to you, okay, now listen, I have to leave, and I'm going to leave these cookies here. Now, don't have a chocolate chip cookie. Whatever you do not eat one of these cookies. All right, I've got to go. But don't eat a cookie, right? And then they leave. Now, what are you going to do? Of course, you're going to eat, probably 10 cookies, right?
Sure.
You're going to,
sure.
right? Because that's what willpower is like. Willpower is basically like saying to ourselves, hey, don't do that thing that you really want to do. And we humans hate denying ourselves of anything, right? We hate that. And so that's why we fight it. And that's why it doesn't work very well, right? And that's interesting. Of course, that's what the gurus say, though. Well, just, fake it till you make it. And, come on, you can do it and set your goals and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, my God. And I mean, hey, for some people that works, but really not that many, maybe like 8%.
Not that many.
And so the point is what people, this is the other point is we just haven't been trained. We haven't been taught how to change a habit. I mean, remember that class you took in school about how to have healthy habits? Of course you don't, because you didn't, because there wasn't one, right? They don't teach this stuff. So that's, well, I'll never be out of a job. But the point is that what really helps people to make these transformational, changes is understand, well, one part of it is understanding what a habit actually is. And then that enables you to make those changes. So a habit is really 5 stages, okay? And just very briefly, it's the cue, the routine, the reward, the craving, and the belief. Now, I'll just walk you through that. So the cue is the trigger that happens in your life. All right, so let's take a classic example of procrastination, right? That's the number one habit that people tell me they really want to change. Every year, procrastination is the number one, right? So that the trigger in this case would be you think about doing something. Right. That's literally the trigger, right? Like, what's so funny about procrastination, by the way, is that procrastination isn't just not doing something. It's not doing something that would actually be good for you. So the point is that, let's say you think about doing, maybe writing an article or shooting a video or doing a podcast or calling that client or customer or doing some kind of activity, some kind of thing that would help you, that would benefit, your business, your career, your health, whatever it might be, right? So then that's the trigger. But then what's the routine? You go and do something else, right? So, man, I really should write that article, but I think I'll go watch Netflix.
Yeah.
or what, you see what I mean? So you do something else. You think of the thing and then you do something else. Okay, so then we have a reward. Now, what does that mean? The reward actually happens in the brain. Now, the brain's main job, believe it or not, and I'm talking about the ancient brain. I'm pointing to the back of my head now. It's also known as the limbic brain or the ancient brain, whatever you want to call it. Its job is to keep you not dead. That's its only job, to make sure you're not dead. And so what's the best way to keep you not dead is don't do anything you're scared of. If you're scared, if you have fear, well, that could be a saber-toothed tiger coming out to eat you. Right? I mean, because that's when all of these things were, created, thousands and thousands of years ago. Now, of course, there's not too many saber-toothed tigers running around today, but still, it's the same feeling that the brain doesn't know that. And so, oh man, what if I do this? And what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if? And so you have all these fears. So you're like, I think I'll go watch Netflix. And then the brain's happy. That's a reward in the brain. It sounds crazy, but it makes sense when you think about it. And then you have a craving for safety. The brain's job is to keep you not dead. So the brain literally goes, you're welcome. You're sitting there watching Netflix. Hey, we don't have a problem now. Okay, I'm good. I'm not scared. So I must be not dead. So you're welcome. and then what happens, the final stage is you have a belief that says, yep, I'm a procrastinator. I can't do it. And so there you go. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So all we do to change a habit, believe it or not, it's not that hard. All we have to do is, number one, identify that trigger. I think about doing the thing. Then number two is you understand and realize you're going to feel afraid. And then you just do the stupid thing anyway. You just go ahead and do it. And you're like, well, is it really that easy? I'm like, yeah, it is. Because you're not going to die. Even though your brain thinks you're going to die, you're not. Then you can always go and do something later. But just do that one simple thing. And then when you change your beliefs, using my methods that I teach about belief change, boom, it actually becomes very, very simple. That's one of the ways, that we were able to help. For example, our client go from 4 million to 20 million, or like Sheila went from 5,000 to 75,000 a month. Susan went from $60,000 in credit card debt to a 6-figure income in a year. I mean, we have so many stories like that. Mike doubled his income twice in 12 weeks. And on and on and on like that. So, I mean, this is just one thing that really helps people get changes very quickly and very easily.
Yeah, I think, when we talk about the fear, so often we make up these monsters in our head, and they grow over time because the story keeps on growing and perpetuating. And then once the pain of not doing it gets high enough, you end up acting and you're going like, well, that was pretty stupid. Wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Exactly.
What a bozo I am.
Well,
but yeah,
we hope to
I mean,
just shortcut that.
you want to shortcut that and just go ahead and do it. A lot of times, what we've done when we're faced with situations, especially maybe situations where we actually they're perilous, not necessarily to us physically, but there's financial peril. There's all sorts of other things. My wife and I have often gone and said, okay, what is the worst case scenario? Okay, what is the worst case scenario? And then, like, can we live with that? Can we accommodate that? Can we get around that? And oftentimes the answer is yes. And so, it's also it's a little bit dispassionate, but it allows you to handle things that maybe you might be afraid of to do. But the habits are real important too, and the cues that we give ourselves and things that you can do. There are things that you can do to really improve your habits and get you going in the right direction. So tell us a little bit about what it's like to work with you. With the programs that you have and the coaching programs that you have and all of that.
Yeah, our two main programs are one-on-one coaching with me and group coaching. And so you can learn more about the one-on-one at noahmentor.com, just like it sounds, Noah Mentor, N-O-A-H, and then mentor.com. And so I'll give you a quick example of that. I was talking with one of my one-on-one clients, and his name's Charles, and I said, Charles, how much do you think, if we don't fix this problem this year, how much do you think it's going to cost you? If we don't, take out your head trash, if we don't get rid of what's holding you back, how much do you think it's going to cost you this year? He said, without batting an eye, he said $1 million. If I don't fix this problem, it's going to cost me $1 million. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, you give me 10% of that million and I will get you that $1 million back. In other words, if you give me $1 and I give you $10 back, is that a good deal? He goes, yeah, it's a great deal. So he actually paid me, 10% of $1 million. That's $100,000. Well, in 10 months of working with me, we've already added over 1.5 million to his business. So talk about hockey sticks. So that's the one-on-one. And then we also have a program called the 12-week breakthrough. And you can learn more about that program at breakthroughwithnoah.com, breakthroughwithnoah.com. And that is where I work with people for 12 weeks. It's a small group coaching. And I work with them and I help them on their inner game and their outer game. So just like I was talking about earlier, that's exactly what has helped my clients add 6, 7, and 8 figures to their business in record time while winning their lives back. So if you go to breakthroughwithnoah.com, you can see a video training on that. And, there's a lot of awesome information and case studies and things like that. And what's really great about it is that you get lifetime access to the online course where I teach you about inner game and then the lifetime outer game. And so you literally have both for your life. And that's what's so nice is, if you're finding that you're stuck or you need help on this one thing, it's all covered because we cover both the inner game and the outer game. And there's really nowhere else that you can go that covers it in this way. And so that's all available at breakthroughwithnoah.com.
Okay, great. And we'll have those links in the show notes. So so you do a lot of coaching, you help a lot of people. But you also want more. What are aspects that you are working on yourself with? And so
Yeah, well, I have my 18th, 19th, and 20th books coming out, believe it or not. So I have 3 books coming out, I think, in the next 12 months, which I think is a record for even me. And I've published, a lot of books 17 books up until now. So, so, really wanting to reach more people around the globe, help more people. We've helped over 1 million so far. And, we'd love to certainly get that up to 10 million and more. So, really, I feel like I've still got a lot of people to help, a lot to say. And, that's really just my vision, is to raise the consciousness of humanity one question at a time and, really helping people to be able to master their inner game and their outer game. And that's what certainly I hope that's what my legacy is.
Yeah. So, and once again, just tell everyone where we can find you. The website, and also we need to mention, we haven't mentioned your free book. that you have. You should go to, and there's going to be a link to that free book in the
Yeah.
program notes. Send me a book, noah.com, and
That's right.
tell us a little bit about that free book.
Yeah. So the book is called Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money: How to Avoid the 3 Big Money Mistakes Even Smart People Make. And just you can get the book for free. It's easy to remember. Just go to sendmeabooknoah.com. Sendmeabooknoah.com, and I'll send you a book. The book is free. We just ask you to cover the shipping. But yeah, it's about taking out your head trash and, getting out of your own way. Just like, the clients that I was telling you about, a few of the stories that I share with you today. But, this book is a great, great way to get started at sendmeabooknoah.com. And the book is free. So it's really nice.
Great. Well, Noah, I want to thank you for being on the Old Guy talkstome.com podcast. And I'm sure that we'll get some people your way, especially to the free book, and then also to the one-on-one and group coaching. And so it's been a pleasure. It's been very informing to have you here, and with some very practical, actionable steps. So this is Oris, the official Old Guy, excuse me, at oldguytalkstome.com. If you have not already yet, sign up for my free digital magazine by going to the standard.academy/magazine. And you'll get many of my feature articles, one of them being One Secret Place to Touch a Woman. And it's not her clitoris, because that's not a secret place. And there are other life hacks in there to help you create that life that you want for yourself and those that you love. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And in the meantime, go out and create an incredible life.
Thank you for joining Dr. Orist and his incredible guest. Like what you heard and learned? Then be sure to do 3 things. 1, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. 2, share this with someone who may need to hear it. 3, leave a review and rate this podcast. Opt in at www.thestandard.academy/magazine and get our free digital magazine with savings, articles, and deeper dives into cool controversy. Be the guy who takes action. Without action, you're not going to get the results you want. Thank you again, and make it a great day.